Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to Enter the Poserverse. Another day, another part of my Best of 2020 series. So to figure out what my top 5 books of the year are from Scout Comics, adventure starts here. You'll have to wait until after this.
Hey, little girl, did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Scout is someone who I got on their hype train in about June, July. One of those 2 months is whenever I first started getting their Scout box, and I will tell you, I think that is one of the most brilliant things that I've seen an independent publisher do, where you can literally subscribe to a box for $33 a month, and they will send you all of their comics that are coming out within like a 6-week window. So you're getting 12 books for that price. So you're paying cover price and you're getting different kinds of exclusives. You're getting some of their ash cans. You're getting, things from their imprints. It's brilliant, especially if your fear is that you may miss a first print of some of these books because there may not be a lot of hype around them until it's too late. And then you might have to hope that there's a second or a third printing offered on a book. The other thing that I think Scout is doing in an interesting fashion, in addition to their nonstop books, which they'll publish a physical issue number 1, and then the rest of the series will be issued in trade or released in trade, which is an interesting way to get people excited. For that, they are also now delaying the publication of, second issues in series for, I think it's 2 months after the initial release of number 1. So if a book comes out and it hits like the Recount or like Phantom Starkiller, then they have enough time to get retailers to adjust ordering numbers on a second printing, in addition to getting an issue number 2 to come out at the same time. So I think it sucks a little bit for someone like me who is ready to read the next title monthly, but it is a brilliant business strategy on behalf of Scout to make sure that they are getting their books in front of eyes of enough people. Coming in at number 5 is The Recount. And it's weird putting only one book and comparing it to other series, but like I said a few seconds ago, this is one of the first titles that's going to be released on that delayed calendar. The Recount is a very, very apt political take where you have a presidential administration that is elected and people don't like them, right? That there's they do a bunch of things that folks aren't a fan of. And in the first issue, the president is assassinated, and you find out it's not just some random lone wolf assassin, that there's an organization of folks within the government that can be cabinet level members of Congress, to any kind of people who are private citizens who are there to not only take down the administration who has done some bad things, but to also take out their supporters, and it is wild. I really think that the team on this book of Jonathan Hedrick, Gabriel Ibarra, Sunil Garge, and Christian Dolokhmansky really are on to something that pops. Issue number 1 was fantastic. I can't wait to see how the rest of this wild conspiratorial ride comes together in later issues. Maybe that book would have been a little bit higher if I had issue 2 by now. But I think some of the other series in my stack over here just have a little bit on them edgewise. So coming in at number 4 is It Eats What Feeds It. This is only 2 issues have come out so far. And it's by Hoven, Lumizark, and Crow. The way, this is a creepy version of, The Graduate meets, Little Shop of Horrors, but instead of a cute plant that sings and then eats bad people, something bigger and more menacing that lurks in the shadows. So, the story that Eats What Feeds It is you have a young man who is looking for a job and is kind of going through the classifieds in the paper and applies to be essentially somebody's houseboy. Like, helps her cook dinner, helps her clean up the house, helps her do all of these other things. And he gets, food, water, shelter, gets to live in like a pool house, and notices eventually that there are just rumblings and strange noises in the house. And he thinks it's, just him getting acclimated to a new setting, right? That we've all slept somewhere new, and all the little creaks and cracks and sounds in the night may, cause us to toss and turn. In later in issue number 2, he eventually discovers that there may be more to either the woman or the house that was initially let on, that there are some creepy things going on in that house, and we see how that woman kind of lures someone into her home who's not the caretaker. And oh boy, the glimpses that we get of this very, very scary. So another interesting series in the beginning phases from Scout. Coming in at number 3 is Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists. And right now it's a 4-issue mini-series by Eric Palaki, Wendell Cavalcati, Mark Dale, and Sean Lee. Imagine something like Lovecraftian meets vampires meets crime. And that's precisely what's going on in this town. In issue number 1, you meet a man who's just kind of backpacking and hitchhiking along, and he saves a woman who was in like a car crash, brings her back to town, and you figure out that everybody was surprised that, she comes back alive. And you find, right, that this man is constantly surveilled in the town. You get to find all of the creepy crawlies that exist in the town, and eventually you find the secret that our wanderer brings with him in terms of helping Atlantis kind of take on some of its inner threats or inner demons. The end in book number 4 was something that was quite intriguing to me in terms of looking at whether or not things were resolved, or whether or not the threats in Atlantis run deeper than they did on the surface. So I haven't checked to see if another arc of books is coming out or not, but there was kind of a clean ending if not, but this is something I would hands down love to read more of. Coming in at number 2, and this is a heavy stack of books, and it's because it was a 3-issue series, and I've got 2 copies of each of them, and some of them are variants. Vlad Dracul. This is by Matteo Struckel and Andrea Moody. I like this story. Right, early on I talked about how I didn't necessarily like reading historical-based things because it feels too much like work to me. But I read this book, and this was one of the only books that I've ever read about Vlad Dracul that focuses on, not the Dracula myth, right? That no vampires, no dark mythos surrounding it. You get a good story about Vlad the Impaler. And I learned in doing some research for my interview with the creative team that this same 3-issue book was originally released in Italian, or it was released, in Italian in Italy, and Scout picked it up, and there are not very many changes aside from translation issues. And book 1 and 2 did so well that they were ordered back for a second printing, but I don't know about issue number 3 yet. But it's very, very compelling tale of, what is happening in the period of time with Vlad the Impaler. And in talking with both members of the creative team, they like diving into elements of history and kind of helping tell that tale or flesh these things out. So you get to learn a little bit about the different hats that Vlad the Impaler has to wear. You get to learn a little bit about his relationship with his wife versus his mistress. That there's an interesting kind of duality set up between a marriage of blood, right? That maybe he only loves his wife because of sons versus a marriage or versus a relationship from a point of lust. But this is fantastic. There is room where if the book does well enough that there could be an additional arc or run of these books, because if you're not familiar with history, there are 3 major clashes between Vlad the Impaler and the Ottoman Empire, and the timing of this book is mostly in the second wave of war between the two. So, spoiler alert, he doesn't die at the end, but that means there could be more awesome, in-depth analysis of one of the most written about characters, because Vlad Dracul is the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula mythos. So one of the most interesting historical figures that we tend to only remember the fantasy about and not necessarily the reality of. Coming in at number 1, this might damn well be my favorite book of the year. And I'm going to have to think long and hard about this in comparing everything else that I've read or I've ranked in my top of each of these videos. But Yasmine by Saif Ahmed and Fabiana Mascolo is brilliant storytelling. So when we tend to hear about people, immigrating to the United States, people seeking refuge in the United States, we tend to focus more on the politics of it than anything else, right? Oh, people are going to come take our jobs, right? Or they're going to disrupt communities, or what if they're terrorists? And we don't tend to focus on the human side of this. Yasmine focuses on the story of a family who has fled to the United States from ISIS. And this story really focuses on, right, Yasmine, the titular character, as she is trying to find normalcy and attempt to willingly assimilate to an American way of life. She is constantly haunted by the trauma of her past, all of the things that she had to experience in her travels to eventually be reunited with her family in the United States. And it, again, is one of those books that gets you thinking about something that is very, very current and very, very real in a way that we tend to not think about these stories, right? The folks who tend to only think about the plight of the refugee or the immigrant are people who seek to forge close relationships with them, right? For the rest of us, it tends to be like an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And I've dealt with students of all kinds of legal statuses, of all kinds of backgrounds in the school that I teach at, and to hear about the horrors that these, children have had to go through and then still attempt to mature into adulthood without being fully scarred from their past. But these are, children who are still trying to mature and grow into the people that they want to be while dealing with, dark elements of their past, of their families, of their voyages to get here, their fears as they have to continue moving on down the road, is just something that's shocking to see how people can get past that. And I think it's something that is quite amazing to get us to think about this in a short form, right, comic book kind of series, that everything else that I read, that I have some kind of thought process or connection to, this just takes it to a different level because I can think of people that I have crossed paths with in life who have been on a similar pathway like this, and to see what kinds of scars they inherit from their family lineage, from their voyage, and what they are willing to share versus what they want to keep locked up inside as they are trying to acclimate to a new area, it's heartbreaking and fascinating at the same time. And I think we don't see very many books with this high degree of realism in them, and it's something that I want to read more of, right, to kind of continue to open my perspective and see if it can unlock ways that I can think of helping students whose paths I may cross with, like Yasmine, in the future. I am going to be that guy, and I'm going to go with a co-champion. Because for something as real as Yasmine is, that Scout Comics puts out, to know that they also publish something as batshit crazy as Metal Shark Bro, it just shows you the sheer scope of things that Scout is willing to publish. Metal Shark Bro, this is Part 2, Assault on Hamzig Island, is one of those non-stop books that came out. So there was an issue number 1 that got your whistle wet, and then issues, or the remainder of the collection came out in a trade form. And this trade came out, I think it was end of November. But you have a man who is trying to get his body back. He is trying to not be a shark anymore. He is trying to get back on his path of killing it, crushing it, and being a badass rocker, and just goes down the craziest fucking path in the world. This is created by Bob France, Kevin Cuffey, and Walter Ostidel. The writers are Bob and Kevin. The artist is Walter, and the editor and the letterer is Chaz Pangburn. And this book is just insane. You are going to see a video come out later in January focusing on volumes 1 and 2 of Metal Shark Bro. Because if you want something that is a good laugh and just crazy surreal in terms of the subject matter, this is it. So I gotta go with 2 number 1s for Scout, because they put out something as real and hard-hitting as Yasmine, and then as wild as a Metal Shark Bro who just wants to be a metal bro. What you gonna do? So what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below, and we'll talk about other books that may have come out from Scout in 2020 that I'm getting caught up on, things that I may have missed on that you all can arm twist me or share with me into reading, like I know I'm behind in reading my White Ash, so Bearded Comic Bro might be like, the best book is White Ash, and he could very well be right. I just haven't finished it. But that's what I think. So as always, thanks for stopping by, and have a good one.
Hey, little girl. Did you want to know a secret?
I got 5 on it. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.